Good evening, folks. And today we're going to talk about, tonight I should say, let me get my D's right. Ugh, that shows us I'm getting old. Well, tonight we're going to talk about something that hit kind of, not necessarily hits close to home, but is actually based on a true story. Now, there's a songs that were named after this. First off, let's get down to the bottom of it. The Great Chicago Fire. I mean, there's a song named after the person named Catherine O'Leary, who came from Ireland, who immigrated from Ireland to have a better life here in the United States, obviously. She came from Ireland all the way to Chicago, Illinois to start a better life. Now, supposedly, when she migrated here she started a better life. She was a farm woman. She obviously got married. And to O'Leary, obviously, and her husband. They were married over there, and they both migrated over here. Migrated over here with her husband. They got citizenship. Then they became landlords. She became a landlord to McLaughlin's and other people. Now, nobody to this day, and she was a diehard Catholic, and at the St. Patrick's Cathedral, which the sad thing about this fire was they depicted her as an evil person that started the whole thing. I mean, there's myths behind this. I mean, to this day, despite her being found not guilty, despite the investigations into how the fire started and zero evidence proving that she's not guilty of the crime of arson or anything, the fire marshal doing the investigation and proving that, and the police doing an investigation, and all of it came back that she was innocent. They still made songs which would pretty much all make fun of. They made a song about her in an old town tonight, in a hot town, in an old town tonight, which if you look it up, that was a song played back in 1896, the year after she died. Catherine O'Leary passed away in 1895. Illness, the year after her husband died, which was in 1894. But after she died in 1895, no one was allowed to see her grave. Supposedly she died from pneumonia. But despite, the only time she ever went out after the fire was for groceries and to milk the cows. That was it. Nothing more. And then, in 1896, but some people still think heartbroken because of the passing of her husband. Now, nobody to this day really knows exactly what happened to that fire. But everyone is speculating. Here are some of the conspiracy theories. And there's so many conspiracy theories. It's all right now speculation. No one really has a real answer. Some think the McLaughlins stole milk and accidentally knocked over a lantern that was fired. Because obviously nowadays we don't have the same technology they had back then. I mean, I wouldn't be able to talk to you if we actually knew what went on back then. We'd be able to have this, and we'd actually be able to know what happened. Now, the McLaughlins, supposedly the tenants, the McLaughlins knocked over a lantern and started the fire. Or the neighborhood kids were playing poker and knocked over a lamp. That was another theory. And a man by the name of Megleg was smoking a pipe and knocked an ash out of the pipe out there. That was another one, but that was most likely the least thing that could ever happen. But then in 1997, Catherine O'Leary was exonerated of all charges, of literally everything. But still, they depict her to this day. They actually showed. But even to the day, propaganda even goes back to way before how they'd used propaganda during World War I and World War II. And every war, for that matter. They showed propaganda of Old Lady Leary, using Old Lady Leary in song lyrics and everything else. And O'Leary was put in that play. She was punched. It shows pictures of her being punched over and a cow knocking over a lantern with its tail and starting a fire inside the building, and it just spread throughout the entire building. But without further investigation, she kept on saying, I had nothing to do with it. It was just the cow knocked over the lantern. I mean, with her own words. That's literally how it did. But with the casualties, but then in 1879, the property was torn down. After so many, the property was sold in 1879. They tore it down. And pretty much withdrew it and everything else. Now, the difference between this fire and the Great Chicago Fire was literally a loss. October 8th at 9 p.m., 1871, 6 years after the Civil War ended, a war, supposedly, a Lady Leary, Miss O'Leary went out supposedly to feel the myth. The whole thing started off with Catherine O'Leary milking a cow, and then lo and behold, it happens. Someone knocks over the cow knocks it over, and then that's where it all spreads throughout the straw and everything else inside there and catches the whole place on fire. But it just began. And they even have like cows walking through there and everything. That's pretty much how you do it. Now, when it comes to other interesting things, I mean, I could go on and on about some historic fires that occurred there. I mean, just 3 years later in 1874, another fire broke out there, but not as bad. Only 20 lives were lost. Not as many buildings were destroyed, but in this fire, we're talking about this fire. 300 lives. Now, 17,000 buildings destroyed. Approximately $200 million in damages. Now, who knows what that would be nowadays? Approximately maybe billions of dollars worth of damages. That'd be the most expensive fire to this day if that number would hold up. If you're to use that number today. I mean, obviously, materials weren't the same. The fire regulations aren't the same as they are today as they were back then. So, obviously, everything isn't the same. I mean, Illinois has different laws than every state. I mean, this is Chicago, Illinois. And then you go to... And then you got other numbers here. Then, 300 supposedly died. That's still a debatable number because only 120 people, 300 supposedly died. Now, the reason why I say supposedly is because 120 are supposedly known to have died because they recovered 120 bodies. Now, the 180 bodies left are either have known to have flown down the Chicago River, or obviously the flames are really hot. They must have been hot enough where they perished, where they ate the body, where those bodies perished, where it just ate through the bones and everything, and just ate the bones up, and just perished in the fire. Just that hot. Must have been just that hot, where it just ate through the bones and left nothing left of the bones. I mean, that's got to be like the only way to figure that out. I mean, one of the two. Now, who knows where these other bodies went? I mean, if they even did go down the river, nobody really does know. I mean, those other 180 have yet to figure that part out. That is the one part that nobody really knows to this day, is where the other 180 bodies went. If they were perished or if they went down the Chicago River. Now, but other than the 120 that were recovered, they were identified and everything else. But 180 are most likely were also killed, but they were mostly known to either have died by either being perished in the fire or fallen down the river. But most likely they were perished in the fire. Just their bodies just were never recovered due to the fact of how hot the flames were, and they just perished them. Now, it's just a sad way to look at that. It's really sad. It never should have happened that way. Lady Leary was pretty much painted as a bad person. They blamed her for years. Even to this day, they still do that, even though she was exonerated in 97. They still use her, they still defame her to this day. Even her descendants say that even though they sided with her, her descendants say that her name was been depicted as a bad person. They even show pictures of her being that person. But but she would only go to Mass and to shop. Mass, she was a diehard Catholic, and like I said earlier, the only time she would ever go out was to shop and to Mass, which would also be to church, technically. It was about the only time she would ever go out of the house. She was that depressed. The fire really took a toll on her. But later on in life, the more she got older, she just got worse. I mean, she literally would cry every day. It just got that bad on her. Then the day she died, they even threw paint on her tombstone. It got so bad. Finally, when those bullies died, it pretty much got the best of all of them. But nobody really does know to this day how it all actually happened. I mean, there's some other historic fires. If you want to learn more about some other historic fires, I mean, there's another great Chicago fire, but not like that one. The Iroquois, it was December 30th, 1903. The Iroquois Theater was adverted as absolute fireproof. I mean, this was what changed Chicago. Rushing to open for holiday, audiences, the halls, firefighting equipment was yet to be installed. A flood, they accidentally ignited a series of draining 15 feet above the rear of the stage. Comedy Eddie Foy rushed the stage, attempted to keep control of the huge audience as flames shot over the stage. His eyebrows singed, and his wig was in flames. He was forced to dash out a back door. A few exits were marked, and others were locked or frozen shut. Bodies 7 to 8 deep, blocked, backed, staircase, trapped those behind them. Within 15 minutes, the flames were quelled. As the smoke cleared and the horror was revealed, 602 people were dead. The Iroquois Theater fire directly led to the adoption of the first national fire codes for places of public assembly. So obviously that was the first fire that you could possibly think of a place of public assembly, which would be like, if you're ever going to have like where fire codes are where you have like blockages of everything and stuff of that nature, you gotta have like this. This has to be taken care of. This has to be taken care of. This has to be taken care of. You gotta run through certain things. And that's why we have our codes. Well, I got some other things I gotta take care of here, and with that being said, I will get back with you very soon. And hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications. With that being said, auf Wiedersehen. Peace.